Let's say you want to form a shallow square recess into this flat piece of wood. There's lots of ways you can go about doing that, but I think that pattern routing, using a pattern routing bit, is one of the best. Pattern routing is a way to form accurate and complex shapes repeatably and accurately every time. Pattern routing bits have a bearing at the top of the bit that's the same diameter as the cutting diameter of the router bit. That bearing allows the bit to follow a template or a pattern, forming an exact replica of the shape. The first thing you need to determine is how big the recess is that you'll be making. In this case, we're going to do it 4 inches by 4 inches, and we're going to cut it a ½ an inch deep. Then you need some way to guide the router bit, a fence or a pattern, for example. In this case, it worked really great to get some 4-inch wide scrap, and we're going to use that on 2 edges of the square, and then some wider pieces that will help close it in. Now, a fence that moves around willy-nilly is of absolutely no use to anyone. So you're going to need to figure out a way to secure not only the wood that you're routing, but the fence that you're going to be using to guide your router. Now, clamps work great, but sometimes you can make use of things like carpet tape or even nails in some circumstances. As you've noticed, all these pieces are now clamped in place, and the 4-inch and the wide pieces, all of the clamps are far enough away so that they won't get in the way as I start routing. That's important. It's a great tip. Now for the fun part, let's remove some waste. You might have noticed that this is a plunge router. While that's not an absolute requirement, you can do this with a standard router. In this case, especially on this interior routing, it makes my life a lot easier. I can set the first depth, remove the material, and then go quickly to my second depth and complete the cut. Before you fire up the router, set the depth for the first cut. It needs to be deep enough that the guide bearing is engaged with the fence. In other words, the bearing needs to be just past the base plate. You don't want it so deep that you're trying to cut too much material. With the router properly adjusted, turn it on and just get after it. Move the router clockwise around the fences. Then carefully remove the center material. Reset the depth of the router and repeat the cut. The one shortcoming of pattern routing is that the diameter of the router bit and the bearing will not allow you to cut square inside corners. If you need those corners square, you need to clean them up with a chisel. On outside corners, there's no problem. You just have to be careful to avoid tear out. So the next time you have a complicated shape to make or a recess to cut out in the middle of a board, think about a pattern routing bit. It'll make your life easier. I'm Rob Johnstone. Thanks for watching.